Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums, and I'm going to do a mini album tutorial for you today. This is a 5.5 by 7.5 mini album. It's got a 2-inch spine, and we've got 5 signatures on it. They're very simple. Some of the pages we're not even going to add elements to, but it still is a great mini album style to make for craft shows, if you want to make some for Christmas, or even if you just are trying to use up something from your stash. I have made in the past week a couple of this. This is using the I Love My Dog collection from Echo Park. This was a Cartabella collection by the Sea. I think it's an older collection, but that was a fun collection too. And then I forget the name of this Echo Park Halloween collection, but I made that too. There are walkthroughs on my channel showing you exactly what's in here. Most of the elements are the same. I may have changed the size of the photo mats or a little bit of the decorating, but go ahead and check those out in my channel. But in the meantime, we're going to get started and make this super quick mini album. There also is a file in my Kofi shop that will give you the cutting guides. So I'll link that in the description box if you want that. Otherwise, you can just listen to the video and write it down and just go from there. But without further ado, let's get started and make a mini album. All right, let's make a mini album. I'm going to go through some basics during this video. I don't always, but from time to time I feel like I need to reset and tell you why I do things the way I do things. First of all, I have 3 pieces of chipboard cut, front and back cover and the spine. The chipboard is 0.057, I think. It's the Graphics medium weight chipboard. I get it on Amazon. I cut it down. And the reason I'm doing this size mini albums is because I've done several that are 6.5 by 6.5, and the offcuts of that gave me a 5.5 by 12-inch piece. I got it down to 5.5 by 7.5. Watch out, you may see a video with the offcut of that. A small, teeny little mini album. Anyhow, 2 pieces, 5.5 by 7.5, 1 piece, 2 by 7.5. I have already put down some double-sided permanent adhesive. I don't care what brand you use, and you don't even have to use it. You could use glue if you wanted to. I would not use ATG, as not permanent enough. I have run out of my 6-inch double-sided adhesive from scrapbook.com, so I'm using 2 pieces of 4-inch. So here is 1 piece of 4-inch, and then I think I put my spine piece like that. So anyhow, I already have this covered. Now, to cover the book, so I do 2 different ways of covering, and it's just whatever mood I'm in. Sometimes if I want a really precise looking book, I'll use the lay flat cover method, but in this case I am just going to add 2 pieces of cardstock together and do the just the 1 piece. Although I have seen stores are now carrying larger pieces of paper, so you wouldn't have to. I might play with that this winter, but for now I'm not going to. So this is 8.5 by 11. This is 8.5 by 11. I'm actually going to use the lines on my surface, on my mat, to join these together. So I'm putting the bottom on one of the lines, and I am over, whoops, it moved. Here's the center line. It's a blue line. I'm over by 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to take this and put it right on the center line and line up the bottom. And so the bottom is even. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world if your cardstock is not perfectly lined up for the cover of the book. It's not a big deal. So anyhow, so now I have a piece. It's not a 22 inches or, I'm sorry, 8.5 by plus 8.5. It's not 17 inches. It's more like 16 3/4 because we overlapped by 1/4. It's more than I need, but it'll work in this case. So I'm going to fold it over rather than having any extra little little pieces. It's not a big deal. The cardstock I am using is 65-pound weight. I have gotten this from Michael's. It's the Recollection brand. They have changed the format of it lately. It's a little, it doesn't look like construction paper, but it has more of that construction paper feel to it. But I still like using this. It doesn't crack. All right, I've put down my spine piece. I'm going to take a piece of 1/4 inch double-sided adhesive and put it right next to the spine piece on both sides. And yes, I just rip it. I'm going to do a good job here of burnishing this on. And I'll go ahead and peel off the backing. I'm using a Dress Your Craft bone folder. It's the number 2. I like it for so many reasons. Number 1, it's non-stick. Number 2, every once in a while I'll get a little nick in it, so I just take a nail file and file it down. And after I filed it down with the nail file, I'll rub it on some paper or even a paper bag or something else to help smooth it down. It's got a bevel on this side, which is great for putting on the covers. It comes to a point. It's not a real sharp point, but it's obviously, you saw, it's enough to get the backing off of the tape. It's got a rounded point, so that's good for getting into crevices. So I use all of that. And it's the number 2 is thicker. There's another one that's maybe a 1/4 inch smaller, but for my fat hands, I like this. It's a good bone folder. Okay, now that we've got that and all my talking, I'm going to make sure that the double-sided adhesive is burnished real well. Now, if you don't want to use the scrapbook.com adhesive, if you want to use score tape, that is perfectly fine. Just use what you have. Okay, so now this is 1/4 inch double-sided adhesive. I don't want a 1/4 inch gap. I want less than that. So I'm going to overlap the edge of this onto my double-sided adhesive. It's a little more than 1/8, less than 1/2 inch. If you want the measurement, it's probably 3/16, maybe. I don't know. I've already burnished this in, but I'm burnishing it again. And same here. I'm making sure I'm lining up the bottom and making sure this is parallel. It's probably the width of 2 chipboard pieces. How's that for a measurement? Now I'm going to turn this over and burnish. Then I'm going to take my bone folder. I'll take this beveled edge and find where the edge of my chipboard is. And I'll do it here on the side. Now, it's going to want to stick down where that double-sided adhesive is here and here, but that's okay. It'll pull up. If you're using a paper surface, it's going to be a little different, but I am not using a paper surface. I am using, it's a Cricut mat. I like the measurements on it. I wish it was not so dark because it plays with my camera at times, but that's the only reason. Okay, now I don't have any fun tools. I don't have any neat tricks. I am just going to cut the corners off. I am going to stay 1/8 inch away from the chipboard corner. Is it a perfect right triangle? Nah, it's not. Now sometimes, every once in a while, my scissors will slip, or I'm talking or whatever. If you get too close, you just take this little corner and glue it on here. Or you could take a marker, a black Sharpie, and color the corners, and that will hide all sins. All right, so I'm using my surface just to bend this. Now, you could take double-sided adhesive and roll it along the edge of the chipboard and the edge of your cardstock. I'm not going to. I have found that it really just wastes your adhesive. I am going to run a bead of glue along the edge of the chipboard, and then I'm going to take a bead of glue and go around the perimeter. I'm going right over my double-sided adhesive, and then I'm going to zigzag. So why do I not use double-sided tape? Because it's going to stick. I run the bead of glue because I feel like it helps the fibers bend when it comes to making my cover. I don't know if that's true or not, but in my mind, that's what happens. So now I'm taking the edge of my bone folder and turning this paper so it's sticking straight up. You can't see it, but it is. It's sticking straight up and going right against the edge of the chipboard. Then what I do is I'll pull this down and go back and forth several times. You have to be careful of where your paper was joined. And right now what I'm doing is using the bone folder and getting at that top corner of that chipboard. Now you got to work sort of quickly because the glue will dry. It depends on what climate you're in, but I'm pretty good. So I've bent the paper, it's folding. I'm going to start at the middle and adhere it to my chipboard, and then go back and forth a little bit and burnish this into my chipboard. Now you saw there was some glue that seeped out. I'm using a little bit of a paper towel and cleaning that up. And burnish, and then burnish there. All right, let's do the other long side. I like to do the two long sides and then the short side. Why? I don't know. Habit. There's nothing extra you have to do with that double-sided adhesive here yet. So I just burnish by hitting the top of it against the chipboard. It creates its own little score line, basically, its own little fold. All right, and burnish and burnish. So here there's a little ripple in the paper. I am just gonna use the edge of my bone folder and work it. So if there is a little ripple, I'm gonna flatten it down. And I'm gonna clean off this. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is take my bone folder, the flat point, and there is a little triangle here that I'm going to push down and in. Down and in. Now, I had some glue there, which is perfectly fine. That works actually to our advantage. And then I will go along our chipboard again around this trapezoid. Zigzag it. And burnish. Fold it down with my fingers and burnish. Now, I got some glue on my bone folder, so I'm cleaning it off with my fingers, but if you have extra glue, just wipe it down. And we'll do this. I want to show you something else. Oh, so the glue I'm using is from the Art Institute glitter. And yes, I said that right. It is, I know this is a pretty gross container. It is art glitter. Designer dries clear adhesive, permanent, water-based, non-toxic, dries acid-free. It's from www.artglitter.com. Remind me, if you want a link, I will put a link. You can get it on Amazon. What else? It is from the Art Institute Glitter Company in Arizona. I shouldn't have talked so long while this glue is drying. Whoops, and I didn't push in my little corners. You know, use whatever kind you have or whatever works. You could use PBA glue. You could use Barely Arts glue. I don't know. Whatever glue you like, use. I did used to use double-sided adhesive for almost everything. But I've been making mini albums for many years. And I like the Art Glitter Glue. It dries. It gives me some time to move things. I just like it. Okay, now that I've got it all done, I'm going to take my bone folder and just go along the top and the edge and the bottom. There is no reason to do that except it makes me feel good. Okay, now I am going to take my bone folder and go in this channel between the two chipboard pieces and get the top of this cardstock to adhere to the bottom, which has the double-sided adhesive. I actually made a little hole there, but it's okay. We're going to cover it. I was using the point. I shouldn't have. I should just have used the side. And if you fold the book, then everything will be fine. If you fold the book, then the top portion will adhere a little better to the bottom portion. And so there is our cover. Isn't that pretty? I just think that's so pretty. You'll see that if you put it on straight, the seam is almost, in this case, it's not perfectly, but it's in somewhere in the center. It's on the spine. Now, it's important to note if you're even off by a fraction of an inch, it's not going to be straight. And the reason that's important to note is when you go to put on the hinge, don't rely on the seam on this side as being straight. Actually, in this case, I think it came out very straight, but it doesn't always. So speaking of the hinge, let's make a hinge. A hinge is, by means of folding, it's a piece of cardstock that sticks up, and when we put the pages on, the pages are actually tubes and they will go into the hinge and you glue it all together and do that. I'm going to start playing around with L pages. My friend Michelle Allen from A Creative Operation does a fabulous job of making L hinges. An L hinge is very simply, let's say this is a page. You just fold it and you glue it like this onto the book. There's a little more to it than that, but I mean, that's basically an L hinge. Okay, I have a 6 7/8 by 11 piece of cardstock. I am mainly using 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I don't have any 12 by 12, but you could use 12 by 12, but most of what I'm doing is using scraps from the 8.5 by 11. So if you use 12 by 12, you're going to have more scraps than what I would recommend, but it's okay. I always find a use for scraps. Okay, so, and it's 6 7/8 by 11. The 11-inch side is at the top of my scoreboard. I am using this Cricut stylus. I think they do make them still. I didn't think they did, but I saw them online. Maybe Cricut brought it back. I like it because it's got a metal tip so it never wears down. Dress Your Craft does make one like this that you can sand down if you need to. It's not like this, but it's round. It's like a pencil. You could actually use this. I have used this in a pinch. I mean, this would work pretty well too, but I'm just used to using this. Whatever you have. To do the hinge, what I'm going to do is I am making 5 pages, and the hinge is going to be 1/2 inch tall. I'm going to have a gusset, so a spacing between the hinges of 3/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is do 2 scores for the hinge and then the gusset. So hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge, gusset. So we'll start at 2, 2.5, 3, whoops. So I made a mistake and I did 2 7/8. It's really no big deal. If it bothers you, you can go on the opposite side and gently score it again, and that takes away the indentation. It's not a big deal because it's on the hinge and nobody will see it. It's really not a big deal. Okay, so anyhow, 3 3 3/8, 3 7/8, 4 3/8, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/8, 6 5/8, 7 1/8, 7 1/2, 8, 8 1/2. Did I memorize that? No. If you've watched me, you know I took a Sharpie and made those marks here because that's generally the what I score to make my mini albums. It's usually half, 3/8. But you don't have to. I'm not going to worry about this double score here. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over and bone folder in hand. I'm going to fold in between each of the 1/2 inch pieces. I've got the bumpy side facing up, by the way. So we have a score line with a 1/2 inch piece between. I'm going to fold at that center score line there. I'm going to make sure before I burnish it that the edges are lined up. You want to make sure your hinge stays pretty straight. And then I'm going to skip a score line, fold. And you can just say that in your head. Skip, fold. Skip, fold. I'm still making sure my edges are lined up, the sides, and skip, fold one more time. And then I will turn it so the bumpy side of our score lines are facing down. And you can see, not even mountains, they're not even valleys, they're just like little hills. If I hold the paper with my fingers and rest my thumb on the paper and I pull with my fingers, that first hinge that we scored is going to come up and make more of a mountain, more of a hill. I'm going to keep going up until I can grab this, and I'm going to just gently burnish it with my fingers. So I'm squeezing that first hinge together. Trying to make it so you can see. No glue, we're just training the paper. And I'm going to pull this up again until the next hinge comes up, and keep doing that. I'm using my fingers to gently fold it on the score lines. We're training the paper to do what we want it to. And one more. And there we go. So I've got 5. You know, usually I get a better picture so you can see. Oh no. 5 hinges. So I will pull these all together so the gussets are resting on my surface. I'll pull the hinges so they're facing towards me. And I'll take the edge of my bone folder and burnish. And then I will take these hinges and face them away from me, making sure that gusset is still down. If you see these do not look parallel, there's something wrong, and either you need to refold it, or to be honest, start over again and do it. It'll just give you practice. Okay, I still don't have any glue, but we've got our hinges trained pretty well. So now let's add some glue. Let me show you my glue. So here is my art glitter glue. I've got this metal tip to it, which you can buy. It looks a mess, but here's what else I do. When you get the metal tip, it's in this little plastic container. I keep it next to me filled with water. There's one in here that I've been soaking for 2 or 3 days. So when this one gets clogged, if I'm in the middle of recording, I can just take this off, dry it off, and all the glue should be out of it, and I can change it, because sometimes this gets clogged. But overnight, I'll put my pin in it and let it, I put it in my desk overnight. But while I'm creating, I have this little jar. It's a little small mason jar, a regular size mason jar would be fine. And I put a couple of layers of paper towels in it with a little bit of water. What I did is I put in the paper towels, I added the water, I turned it upside down, let it sit for a minute while I was cutting some more paper towels and putting them until it's not drippy anymore. If it's too drippy, it'll soak up into your tip. But if just add more paper towels if it's too drippy. So those paper towels are moist, and I can turn this upside down, and it will keep, while I'm working, it will keep the tip from drying out. My glue is down, ready to go. This another tip from Michelle Allen. I tell you, if you don't follow Michelle Allen, you should. All right, so anyhow, grabbing my glue, and I'm going to start about 1/4 of an inch away. See, it's a little wet, and I'm going to zigzag across the length. I'm holding it with my fingers. I've got it with 2 fingers and my thumb, and go till about 1/4 of an inch at the end. And then I'm going to take a bead of glue and go as close to the top as I can, which is about 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to get out this so I don't get my surface wet. I'm going to turn this upside down and squeeze this together now and let the glue do its job. Now, I'm squeezing in the center, and at the very end I pull it to the edge. If at that point glue is coming out, wipe it up, clean your fingers off. Don't let glue get on everything. I'll do another one. So starting about 1/4 of an inch, zigzag. I'm just doing it on one side of the hinge. I don't need to do it on both. You don't need too much glue. I mean, our glitter glue is great. It adheres like crazy. So I've got 2 hinges together. Let's do the third one. Zigzag. Line across the top. Put it down and squeeze. By not having any glue, if you start 1/4 of an inch away, it's not going to come out. But again, if it does, it's no big deal. Just clean it up. Now I'm getting a little daring. And also, it's pretty humid. I don't have a fan on me. I'm going to do 2 at once. Sometimes I'll do all 5 at once. Really being daring. And then I'll turn these over and finger burnish them. Now, I know some people have tactile issues and they don't like to touch the paper. I mean, you can use your bone folder. No big deal. I'm actually going to do it this way. I'm going to now burnish again. So I'll move the hinges one way and burnish. Move them towards me and burnish. Okay, then I'll let them go straight up. And there is our beautiful set of 5 hinges. I enjoy making hinges. All right, I'm going to get out my book. And I'm going to figure out where these are going to go. Now, you notice I didn't cover the book with any more cardstock. You don't need to, because when you put this on, it's going to cover everything you need to. You're going to put paper on the back. So I'm looking to see where this is going to end up, where I'm going to glue it. I'm going to go up about 1/4 of an inch, and although you can't see it because this wing of the hinge is hiding it, you can see the edge and the top of the bottom where the indentation is, the channel between the spine piece and the cover. And so I want to make sure it's pretty even. And I'm going to look at the last page and make sure that's pretty even. So I'm about 1/4 of an inch from this hinge to the channel, from the top of the hinge to the channel, from the top of this hinge to the channel, and the top of this hinge to the channel, and about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the hinges to the bottom of the book. It's a little bit more at the top, but about 1/4 inch. All right, now that I know, I'm going to lift it up. But I just wanted to get an idea of where it's going to go. All right, so I'm holding it in my hands, and you see the hinges are pointing down. We've got just a nice, pretty, smooth area. The gussets, the underside of the gussets are facing up. I'm going to take my glue. It's a little watery, but it'll be okay. There it goes. And go in the divot from the gusset. I missed it here, no big deal. So I'll do 5 lines of glue, and I'm going to do this pretty quickly because this could dry. And I'm going to zigzag up and down. Again, staying about 1/4 inch away from the edge. So that's all the glue I'm going to use at this point in time. I'm going to turn it upside down, hovering over it until I know exactly where I want it, and place it down. Now at this point you can fine tune it, and if you feel like you need to move it, you still can move it. Then once it's down and you think it's good, I'm going to hold it down on the wing and take my finger, and I'll start at one of the center gussets and start at the top and just push it down and start at the bottom and go up to the middle. So start at the top, go to the middle, bottom to the middle. Then I'll move this hinge over, and you'll feel lightly the paper will move at the same time. So again, use your finger to burnish it. Then I'll go over to the one on the right and do the same. And then one to the left. And then do it to the outside one and the outside one. And then I will take all of the hinges and move them one way and burnish. So play that over a couple of times. I couldn't go very slow because the glue was going to dry. You could play this in slow motion if you wanted to. Watch it a second time, whatever you want to do. I'm going to move the hinges over to the other way and burnish. And then I will have these hinges facing up. If you want to, you can take your bone folder and gently go next to the hinges, but you really don't need to. Okay, now I'm going to take the wings. And I know, my writing's upside down. Does that bother anyone? Hopefully not. And I'm lifting my wing up. We've got glue right down here under that hinge, but there's no glue on our wing. So let's remedy that. I am going to zigzag about 1/4 inch from the top on this piece. Oops, I got into that channel. All the way down, and I'll do the same for the other side, but I'm not putting it in that channel, but I will put it in that channel that the chipboard is, not chipboard, cardstock's covering, because I'm going to glue this down into the channel. I'll add a little bit here, but mainly I'll go around the outside of my wing and add a little bit of glue there. It's not going to go anywhere. And then I'll take my bone folder. You could use your finger, and I'm going from the top to the middle and from the bottom to the middle, helping to distribute the glue. And then I'll use the edge of my bone folder and burnish that. All right, now what we want to do is with our rounded edge of the bone folder, very gently find where our covers, where that channel is, and I'm going to go back and forth really lightly at first, pushing a little bit more each time. Not going to use the point. I already learned my lesson there. But we're going to cause the, you see this page is moving, or the cover of the book. What I want to do is get this top of the wing, or the underside of this wing, to match with that double-sided adhesive that's in that channel. So to do that, I'm going to lift the cover of the book. So we're going to sort of close the cover a little bit, and using your bone folder, get into that channel, and it will match. Now we put some glue here, so we want glue to distribute, and burnish here. Now, it may loosen up a little bit, but that's okay. We'll do the same for this wing. I will go back and forth, zigzag. That's where I ripped it. But like I said, we're covering it. Zigzag here. And around the perimeter. Zigzag there. And close that. Go right next to the edge of the hinge. Distribute that glue. Get into the channel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many times. 20. If any glue pops out, clean it up. It's because I kept the glue away, 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, that you don't see it coming out. But it's no big deal if it does. And then here. Okay. If you added a lot of glue, you're going to see this is going to be bumpy. It's going to dry and it'll be fine. But that's why I'm working it a little bit, just to get the glue to distribute. All right, I'm going to make sure my little hinges are facing straight up. I'm not going to close it anymore. I'm going to leave it. If you close it too much, you'll get just little bumps right here and here. It's okay. It's no big deal. But we're just going to leave this until we're done with our pages, and then we'll work it a little bit more. So that is the cover of the book. Just going to let that sit for a little bit while I get out my pages. All right, to make the pages, you're going to need 5 pieces that are 10 by 8.5. So remember, I'm using 8.5 by 11 paper, so just cut an inch off, so you'll have a 10 by 8.5 inch piece. It's important that your papers are square, and I will tell you that sometimes these Michaels papers are not perfectly square. I can see it now putting it in my scoreboard. It is not perfectly square. I'm going to work with it. It's not off by that much, but I mean, it's just something to be aware of. So anyhow, I've got the 10-inch side at the top. I am going to score it at 5. Then I'm going to rotate it so the 8.5 side is at the top. I'm going to score it at 3/4 of an inch all the way down, and then I'm going to score it at 7 3/4 all the way down. So we've got an H, or maybe it looks like an I here. Let's do one more just so I can do them all at the same time. So the 10-inch side is at the top. I'm going to score it at 5. I'm going to rotate so that line we scored is going across horizontal. I'll score it at 3/4 of an inch and at 7 3/4. All right. Okay, so now we're done with that. Now I'm going to take my paper trimmer and I'm going to cut this down. This is an old Fiskars paper trimmer. It has been through a lot, but it was my mom's, and my mom's passed, and so I keep it. I could get a new one, but it uses a rotary blade, and so I can replace them. And I just found a new place to get this cutting pad. Otherwise, they're $13 a piece, and this is what wears the most out of these rotary trimmers. You might find it on eBay. I've seen them on eBay. So anyhow, what we're going to be doing is cutting it like this, and I'll show you how. So we'll take our, and I'll show you how to do it with scissors as well. I'm going to take this and line it up right on the score line, and I'm going to cut from that 1/2 inch or that 5-inch score line halfway. I'm going to cut on our score line, and then I'm going to rotate it all the way around and do the same with this side. Now I'm used to my scoreboard, so I know where it's going to end up. So what I'm going to have is the flap on the top is loose, the flap on the bottom's loose. So I'm going to miter. So I'm going to go on the bottom piece We've got our score line. We've got our halfway score line. I'm going to cut at an angle so we have this piece coming off. And then I'm going to miter this piece too. I'll turn it upside down and do the same with this. There and here. So that's what our piece will look like when we're done with our scoring. All right, let me do it with my scissors. So I'm using my long blade scissors. I find it easier to cut when I'm doing a long line. So I'm going to cut right up to that X created by our score lines. And then I'm going to cut this piece off. I'm going to cut right on the score line. Up to the X. So I'll cut this off. I guess I could have cut at the angle first. Oops. But I'll do that now. And then I'll miter this side, turn it over, and miter that side. So either way, let me get those. Have to do this. I am more comfortable because, like, I can't draw a straight line. I can't cut a straight line either. So I am more comfortable doing it on my, turn it upside down, on my scoreboard. Or on my cutting implement tool. Paper trimmer. Cut there, there, and there. If you mess up and you have this piece and you've cut those off, that's okay. No big deal. All right, so make a pile of those, clean off my surface, put tools away. So what we're going to be doing is we're making like a little pouch. It's going to be 5 by 7. We've got a folded line here, and this is where our two tabs are going to join. So let's do that. Oopsie, one fell. So what I'm going to do is fold on my score line. And I'm going to try to match the bottom. Now, I will tell you, like I said, sometimes this paper is not, I cut an inch off and I've still got like a 1/16 of an inch showing here. It's okay. It's not going to harm anything. Then I'm going to fold this tab to the inside and burnish, and fold this tab to the inside and burnish. Then I'm going to fold this, making sure my edges are all lined up, which they should be, and they are, and it's perfect. So I will take glue, and I will zigzag it here, zigzag it there. Make sure we get some at the top, but it's gonna seep in. Uh-oh, so I got some glue there. Then I'll fold this and burnish. I'm making sure it's straight. I'm holding it and burnish. And so now we have our pouch. So we'll do that with the other ones. Fold in half first. Fold, fold, and burnish. Then add glue. And burnish. So there we go. It's a pretty easy way to make pages. Now, the reason I am doing it this way as opposed to getting two 5-inch pieces is because I didn't want there to be any question that there could be an inside hidden photo mat between the pages. I've been making a lot of mini albums lately, and I'm not always adding something in my inside photo mats. So that's why I have a fold here instead of it being open. Now, you could just cut that after you've joined this, or you could have separate pieces and have it open if you want a hidden photo mat. But I didn't. I am not having hidden photo mats in this book. All right, so we've got our pages, which are basically just little pouches. I'm going to put these down, and let's get our book. So now I'm going to, it's dried for a while. Oops, there's a piece of glue on here. That's okay. I'm going to burnish on both sides of that spine, and I'll burnish here again and make sure the book will fold, which it will. Burnish and fold, so it'll fold. So, love it. All right. I know, I have the writing upside down. All right, I'm going to take my pages and declare that inside front cover, and this is the top of the book. So I am going to just dry fit one of my pages onto my hinge, and it works perfectly. Now, I don't know if you remember, but this side of the page is a little shorter than the back side. So it's not a big deal. I just have to keep that in mind when I'm gluing things down. So I'm actually going to turn it so the longer side is facing up, just so I can deal with that. So anyhow, I dry fit this. Since this was 6 7/8 and our pages should be 7, this should fit with no problem. But if for some reason it doesn't, all you have to do is take a little piece out of the hinges. Just a little corner, top and bottom. All right, now I'm going to turn this all facing forward. I'm starting at the back hinge, and I'm going to zigzag to the top, keeping the bottom without any glue. It'll smear down there, believe me. And then I'm going to take my page, my little pouch, and put it in my, or put my hinge in my pouch. And I'm going to not make my hinge touch the bottom. Well, it can touch the bottom, but pull it back a little bit, so it's not right. So you see a little bit of the hinge showing. That's what I'm trying to say. I want the bottom of the page to be lined up with the bottom of my book. If everything's straight, that should not be a problem. I see about a 1/16 of an inch of my hinge showing here. On the back side, it's more because, remember, my pages weren't even. So when I get it to the way I like it, I will just burnish this in. I've got a little glue seeping out. Not a big deal, but what you can do is, this is that 1-inch piece I cut off of my book. I'm going to put it down here just so it'll keep it so I don't have any glue seeping out. All right, so the bigger page is going to be facing up. Put my glue in here on the top half. So the hinge, this is really important that you have enough glue, but you don't want it seeping out, because if you have it seeping out, it'll start making a mess. I put it in on one side. And then line it up with the other side. And it will go in. It's just giving me a hard time, so I'm just going to make it easy on myself. I'll just cut all these. So when I miter this, I'm just cutting the top 1/2 inch. I'm not going all the way down to the base. It's okay if you do. But we'll just take that off and make our lives easier. It's getting hung up on where my fold line is. All right, put it down. Pull it up a little bit. Make sure it's lined up with the page in front of, or behind it actually, the first page we put in, and burnish. Take my little thing and move it. Add glue. It goes down and then I pull it back a little bit. Line it up with my other pages. I love it. Do you have to zigzag? Absolutely not. You could do circles. You could do squares. You could do parallelograms. That's all the geometry I know. Put it in. And burnish. And one more. Do I always do 5 pages? No. Sometimes I do 6. I usually don't do more than 6. You can add pages by having extra flaps. And sometimes it's best to start with a certain number of pages until you know you have enough paper. And then you can add flaps as you go, or folds, or whatever, once you know you have enough paper. But generally, for a 12 by 12 collection that has 12 pages, I like to have 5 pages, and then I generally have enough to do the pages and everything I want. Depends on what you have. If you have some, and I'm burnishing all of the pages now. If you have solids to coordinate, if you have 2 packs of paper, if you have a 6 by 6 pad, then you might have more. Now the thing is, sometimes when you open the book from this direction, the pages don't necessarily line up perfect. Trying to find a light color piece of paper to show you. Do you see that? It's little sort of steps. It means they weren't lined up perfectly, but when you do it this way, it's lined up perfectly. It's not a big deal. By the time you add your flaps and all of the decorating, nobody is going to notice, least of all you. You're going to forget all about it. But anyhow, there we go. There is our 5 pages, and we are ready to add elements onto our pages. All right, so I am modeling the features I'm going to put in this book off of what I put in this book. What I like to do is use what I have available to me from the paper collection. The paper collection I'm using is the By the Sea collection from Cartabella. Oh my God, I love this collection. First of all, Cartabella has this fabulous paper, and it's nice and thick, and just love it. Anyhow, this collection has 2x2 pieces, the same as this Halloween collection did. I think that was an Echo Park collection. I'm probably going to put this on the cover. I might fussy cut this. I'm not sure yet, but for the inside front cover, I'm going to do the same as I did for this book, and we're going to have a tuck spot made by a 2x2 piece. So I know all I need to do is put the paper on, cut a 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 piece. I actually backed this with a coordinating cardstock. It's the light orange. And then put it on a 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 piece and just glued it down on two sides. So I'm going to do that and then add a 4x4 element. I don't know if I have this from the sticker sheet, probably not. Page 1 is just going to be a photo mat. So really the first feature we're going to make are these angled pockets. This is for the back of page 1, and the front of page 2 has a flap. It doesn't go all the way to the edge, so people see it's a flap, but it does open up, and there is another angled pocket here, so that coordinates. And then this, we're going to replicate this, which is just a flap. So let's do that. So the page itself is 5 inches. So what we're going to do is take a piece of cardstock that's 4 3/4 by 6. We're going to make actually 2 angled pockets because later in the book we'll do the same thing. So let me show you a trick. We'll take this rectangular piece, 4 3/4 by 6, and score at 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. There is a method to my madness, believe me. And then we are going to trim this down in half, 2 3/8. I hope that is right, but 2 3/8 is what I'm trimming this down to. So you have 2 pieces. What we're going to do is mark this. I'm going to use my little, I know it's dirty, but it's easier to see. So I'm going to take the top piece, the top part. We've got the 3 score lines and the sides and the bottom. And I'm going to grab my little piece of chalk. And I am going to make a little mark at 2. So 2 inches over from the left side. And then this is already on this. I'm going to mark it down 1 inch on the right side. So we have 2 inches over, 1 inch down. And I'm going to take my small paper trimmer just so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to cut it from one mark to the other. So there is that. Luckily, doesn't matter, but it does there. The white chalk does erase, or you could just use a damp sponge or paper towel. So now that I have that, now I'm going to miter. So I'm going to cut across. I'm going to miter it that way across the X created by our 2 score lines. Same with over on this side. We're going to miter at the top. So that's what the piece looks like when all is said and done. Now we could do this one at the same time, and I'm going to use my surface. I don't have the 2 inches marked, but cut it over 2, down 1, cut across. Now, if you want, don't put this in the book yet. You can use this as a template for how to cut your pattern paper. So I'm cutting this the same because that is for, I think, the back of page 4. All right, but let's do it again with a smaller piece. Let's make a flap first. So we're going to get a piece of cardstock that is 5 1/4 by 7. I'm going to get my scoreboard, and with the 5 1/4 side at the top, score it at 1/2 inch. We can miter these corners. And fold and burnish on our score lines. Okay, so this is for another angled pocket. So this is 5 3/4 by 4 3/4. We're going to cut it at 2 3/8. And we're going to do the same. I'm going to turn this up so... Oh, I'm sorry. I was supposed to score it at all 4 sides. Since I didn't, I'm going to have to score it 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So with the 5 3/4 side at the top, score at 1/2 inch, rotate. With the 2 3/8 side at the top, score at 1/2 inch, and with the 5 3/4 inch side at the top, score again at 1/2 inch. And using my little thing to show you, we're going to make a line at 2 and 1 inch down. 2 and 1 inch down, and cut it across. Now this one we're going to treat a little different because it's going to be on the left side. And you know, you don't have to do the angled pockets. If this is too much for you, just leave it straight. I mean, it's not hard to do. It's just decorating can be fun. You might want to make an extra one and cut this out a little bit smaller and make that the template. All right, let's get all this stuff out. All right, so we've got these. I'm going to turn it upside down and fold this in. And fold these in. And fold this in. Same with here. So I'll put this aside for later. This one I'm going to turn over this way. Turn upside down, fold this in, this in, this in. So, whoops, no, I did it the wrong way. We want it the other way so the short side is on the left. The long side is on the right. So just like that. Do like that, we'll put that aside. Now we'll get out the book. Nothing for the inside front cover. This is the front of page 1. And you can write 1B, 2B, etc. But I don't need to. So the back of page 1, front of page 2. First, what I'm going to do is take this flap. So you could put the flap here on the front, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this over. So here's the little tab on the flap. I'm going to put glue on the inside. And then I'm going to take this page 2F, and I'm going to put this, line it up with top and bottom of the page. So the tab is actually on the back of page 2, because that way you know it's going to be straight on the page. And you'll cover this with paper so you won't see it. So there we go. All right, now we'll open that like that. So this angled pocket, I'm going to just add glue to the bottom tab first. I guess I could have gone in order and done the back of page 1 first. All right, glue, line it up to the bottom, and burnish. AC's coming on. I'm going to have to turn it off, but I'll keep going right this second. You could take a piece of tape and put it here on the tab. So if for some reason you end up not putting paper to go all the way down, which in this book we will, but it's just a nice habit to get into. Your papers, whatever you put in the pocket, is not going to get hung up on this little piece. I don't know, it's just one of those little details. All right, and then I'll fold and burnish down my side pieces. And make sure when you're putting this piece on, you stay over to the right-hand side. Don't go too close to the fold. Before you glue it down, make sure it's not going to get in the way of this fold here. Move it over if you need to. And then this longer piece we're going to put here on the back of page 1. So we will put this down. This shouldn't be a problem because we're on the hinge, so that should not get in the way. And I'll add my little piece of tape here. And then add glue to our teeny little tab and tab here. Fold that down, burnish. And there we go. So now I'm going to put a magnet here on the pocket. I have a 1/4 inch magnet I got from Total Elements Magnets. I do have Total Elements listed in the description box. That's where I get all my magnets. These are super strong, so that's why I can use a 1/4 inch. I have a little piece of double-sided adhesive. So I'll put one here. You can add a piece of Scotch tape on top of that. I'm going to add a little dot of glue on the top of that magnet, fold the page over, and then I've got some glue here so I know where it needs to be adhered. I've got a little piece of double-sided adhesive. I'll burnish that down, peel that off. Actually, I'm going to take this little peel, put it on top of this magnet, and push it down there. So now I've got my 2 little pieces, and I will go ahead and cover both of those with some tape. Just so nothing gets stuck, and that tape's so thin it's not going to hurt anything. So there we go. I could have put my magnet here on the page, but you know, if you put in a whole bunch of things on the page, it might not adhere down. So anyhow, that is the back of page 1 and front of page 2. I can erase this or leave it, it's no big deal. All right, let's work on the back of page 2, front of page 3. All right, for the back of page 2, front of page 3, we have a flap. On the flap, on this decorating, I just put a piece, it's about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, with a couple of pieces of paper, and I added some baker's twine just to add a little texture to it. And then that opens, and I made a cheater pocket here, meaning I just glued it on the bottom and 2 sides, and it makes a little tuck spot. And then for this book, I added some stickers and made them a tuck spot here. I'm probably not going to do that for the book we're working on now. So during the walkthrough, you'll see. And another thing is this flap was 4 3/4, which I'm not happy with because you don't see as much on the sides. So we're doing 4 1/2. So what you'll need is 2 pieces of cardstock that are 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. We are going to score both of them with the 6 1/2 side at the top at 1/2 inch. And then, because anytime I have a flap over a page, I like to round the corners. So I'm going to take my corner rounder and round the bottom corners. It only gets tricky when you're adding pattern paper to the inside, the underside of this, because you have to make sure the orientation of that paper is correct. I'm going to miter on these corners, so from the score line, I'll go up and miter. Usually the scissors will stop at that score line, just where you need it to. And then we'll fold and burnish on the score line for both of these. And I'm going to turn this on its side, going to dry fit it. So there should be 1/4 inch showing on each of the sides. Obviously you'll glue it to the top of the page. Now on this we're going to have that tab from the previous page showing, but it's not a big deal, because we're going to cover that with paper. Alright, so again, center it on the page so 1/4 inch should be showing on both sides. It's going to be on the top of the page, and burnish. And then at this point, if you want, we can add magnets. I won't stop because we've already seen how to do magnets. So we will go ahead and move on to the next page. Alright, now I'm going to grab my scoreboard, and the next page is the same as what we did for the back of page 1, front of page 2. So you'll need a piece that's 5 1/4 by 7 with the 5 1/4 side at the top. We'll score it at 1/2 inch. And we're going to add this. Whoops, this is going to go here. Let me show you the page just so you can remember. This is the back of page 3, front of page 4. So we're going to, the flap, that's what we're doing now, and we're going to add those angled pockets to the pages. And since we've already done this on the back of page 1, front of page 2, I'm just going to go in fast motion and repeat the process and put the flap on the front of page 4, the pocket on the back of page 1, and the small pocket on the flap. And then when I decorated, I just added one of the cut aparts to a photo mat, and the photo mat was 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I just added a white photo mat that's 4 1/2 by 4 1/4, and just some paper I put on it. I don't think at this point when I was doing this book I had any more cut aparts that I wanted to use. Of course, just stickers here and stickers there, and of course you're going to add a magnet, and that's just a cut apart. I should have backed on something, but I liked having the lines in the back to write in. And that's just a photo mat with some stickers. Okay, so now the next page, which is the back of page 4, front of page 5, I don't have any features on as far as flaps or folds or anything. I just have photo mats, primarily because I wanted to use these stickers. So that is back of page 4, front of page 5, and the back of page 5, again, I didn't put anything on, and the reason is because I don't like things to like get in the way, and if I had a flap I wouldn't want it to get stuck on here, so I'm very cautious about when I have flaps so they don't get hung up on things on the preceding page. But it doesn't mean that you have to be cautious. You could repeat this if you wanted to, or even make another angled pocket if you wanted to. All right, next we're going to work on the inside back cover. And all that is basically a flap that is corner rounded and a pocket. I tend to use that in the back of my book. I figure at this point, if you still have things that haven't fit into the book anywhere, this is a good spot to put everything. I also just put some paper here and a little sticker there, and I think that makes a nice decoration. And then plus I have the stripes going up and down here, and I think that looks good with a pocket. For the pocket first, you will need a piece that is 2 3/4. I don't know why I didn't make it 3 by 6 1/2, because the page is 5, so we need it an inch bigger. Page is 5 1/2, so we need it 6 1/2. And then for the flap, this measures 7 by 5 3/8. I'm making the flap a little smaller than the cover, because if you made it the same size as the cover, I feel like sometimes it doesn't close. It gets hung up, even though you'll have a magnet. I just like to make it just a little bit smaller than the cover. You may have noticed I've already scored and mitered. I went ahead. So anyhow, you'll put the 7-inch side at the top and score at 1/2 inch, and then miter the corners, and then round the corners if you want. And then for your pocket, we'll put the 6 1/2 inch side at the top, score at 1/2 inch, rotate, score at 1/2 inch, rotate, score at 1/2 inch. We'll go ahead and miter the top corners and miter across the X caused by the score line. I have glue on here, or adhesive, and that's why things are sticking. We'll go ahead and fold and burnish on the score lines. And I am going to add glue to this bottom flap, put it in, justify it over to the right, meaning make sure it is lined up with the edge of the book rather than the spine. And then we'll go ahead and add glue. I know I'm going to have paper that goes all the way down on this, so I'm not worrying about tape. And then for the top piece, we're just going to fold and burnish on that score line. And add glue. And again, have it over to the outside of the book, so over to the right side more so than the left side. But sort of center it on the page. I say have it over one side, but center it. So just have it closer to the outside of the book than the center of the book. And varnish. And then there we go. That is it. Now, if there's any tips and tricks when it comes to decorating it, I will let you know. But that is quickly how to make. It's a simple book. What we have going on here is the gorgeous paper is going to be the star of the show. So that is what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that bell for notification. I will have a really quick cutting guide in my Kofi shop, coffee shop, whatever it is. It'll be in my shop. It'll be listed in the description box. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and do all those things that help my algorithm. Thanks again. Have a fabulous day.